The only thing that I would say was difficult to deal with was when, if I didn't get it the first time and I ask a question, I'm getting called a name, and then he teaches me again.
Yeah. Can I tell you that I'm very similar to that, but I have learned something over the last 12 years that I didn't know before I started teaching federal contracts. And that's that people who go through my training are smarter than the average person down the street. And I mean that because it's one thing to be able to afford the $5,000. It's another thing to be able to travel to Austin, Texas and leave your business for 3 or 4 days and travel and all that kind of stuff. And dumb people can't usually do that. But what I've also learned is that smart people have certain assumptions in life about how things work. As an example, in this conversation, you're a sharp guy, and I kind of blew your mind on some things that you might have had preconceived notions on, but I may have changed your mind, okay? But I've also found that when you use sarcasm against somebody who's smart, it kind of makes them feel a little bit dumb, and smart people don't like that. So when you do use sarcasm to teach, it's like a bullet to the brain of information, and it never leaves their brain because they think about it more, smart people, when you teach with sarcasm.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
And so part of that sarcasm, part of that sarcasm is calling a smart person stupid, okay? And that's what he was doing to you, even though he may not have understood why.
Aw. He passed away a couple years ago. And that gives a different perspective. I never thought of it that way.
Yep.
Now you made me cry.
I'm sorry, Joseph, but that's the way I see this world.
Yeah. Good morning, Sean.
How you doing, Joseph?
Doing well. How about yourself, sir?
Fantastic. So what's going on?
I've been seeing your advertisements on Facebook, and I just was curious about how you do what you do. I was actually in the middle of the second video. I watched the first one, which was only 15 minutes or so. And so I just started watching the hour-long one and got your text, so.
Yeah. Well, at least the advertisement's fresh in your mind. So that's kind of the opportunity. I like to set a couple of ground rules, as you might have seen in the beginning of that second video, and that is that I've been in the construction industry for 30 years, and I know that contractors are constantly getting smoke blown up their ass and people trying to take advantage of them, so I like to say in these things that this is your opportunity to talk to a guy that did 1,000 federal contracts that generated $1 billion, but really it's just for you to determine two things. Number one, if I'm full of shit or not, and number two, if you decide I'm not, am I the guy you want to go into the federal market with, you know?
Yeah.
And then I guess one of the questions I also like to ask is, most people when they scroll through Facebook, they skip advertisements, but you didn't skip mine. What kind of caught your eye there?
I'm a vet, so when I saw that you help people get into the government contracts, I know there's ways to get in as a veteran, and I really don't know what they are. My other question was, I'm not a contractor. I do pressure washing and window cleaning.
Okay.
So I'm not in, that might still be called construction or something, but I'm not one of those things, and I'm not drywall. I have been a GC in the past, but I'm just not now. So I wasn't sure if it can apply.
That's not a problem at all. First of all, this is just a conversation between two guys in the construction industry. At the end of this call, you're not going to hear, if you buy now. There's no pressure for anything. There is no PowerPoint. Here's the 7-step process to give me money. There's nothing like that.
Okay.
It's just a conversation. And but anyway, so let's talk a little bit about construction in general. Since you didn't make it through that second video, I'm going to go ahead and give you a history lesson if that's okay with you.
Sure.
I'm not an economist, I'm not Alan Greenspan, but I've been around in 3 decades in the federal space, and I've noticed some things over time. And one thing I've noticed over time for sure is that our economy goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And I have a tech team that sets up all my technology. You know, I wouldn't know how to do a Zoom call if somebody didn't show me what buttons to push. But
Yeah.
I'm a contractor, right? I always joke, I'm an ape with a hammer, you know? Give me something to hammer. But anyway, I've been teaching this economy thing for a while now, and one of my tech guys, he says, when you draw it out, you're drawing it backwards. You need to draw it the other way. And I went, well, bear with me. So this is the first time I'm going to be doing it the reverse of the normal way I do it. But the economy, yeah, it won't work reverse. He's just retarded. All right, the economy goes up and it goes down. And it goes up and it goes down. And contractors, when the economy's going up, they don't necessarily know that it's going up. What happens to them is they start getting more phone calls. And that's how they know things are good. Hey, can you give me a bid to do this? Can you give me a bid to do this? Can you come power wash this? And if you get too many of those phone calls, what do we do with our price?
We raise them.
That's right. And that's in a good economy. But then eventually things pull back, and we call these dips, what do we call them? Especially if they're big dips.
Declines or
Recessions.
recessions. Okay.
Okay. And so the economy pulls back, and I'm just here to tell you that that's not your fault. When things are going up and you're feeling like Superman and you're spending money on advertising and marketing and you're going, oh yeah, things are good, money's flowing. When that shit starts pulling back and you're not getting the phone call the next week, I'm just here to tell you that's not your fault. That's the economy pulling back. But then if you stay in business long enough, you come across this side, you start rolling back up the upside, and oh my God, things are great and it's awesome. And life goes on, and the economy is constantly going up and down, up and down. But if you know anything about American history, what was the worst recession in American history?
Carter.
It was actually before that. It was the Great Depression.
Oh yeah, duh. All right.
Yeah, no, you don't have to duck. Like I said, it's a history lesson. Happened in 1929. The stock market crashed. 9 out of 10 people in the United States, I mean, I don't know 9 out of 10, but some massive number of American people lost their jobs. And it was the worst economy that had happened in American history, and we refer to it as the Great Depression. The incoming president was FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was tasked with saving the American economy, and he started negotiating with Congress on how he was going to do that, and he came up with a plan. Have you heard of it, the New Deal?
I do remember this. I don't remember what it was called, but I know he ended up helping a lot of people by doing government contracts.
That's exactly right. He went out there and started building roads, bridges, and dams, but it was federal government contracts. He stimulated the economy, but there's something in the history books that's not taught associated with that New Deal, and it's really important. Prior to the New Deal, when our federal government bought construction goods and services, because they've been buying construction goods and services since 1776, right? I mean, the capital of the United States was built before 1930s, right? They were always buying construction goods and services. But prior to 1933, the New Deal, it was a cost. We buy something in construction, and it's a cost. What the New Deal did in 1933, he negotiated with Congress, and he said, when we buy roads, bridges, and dams, it's not a cost. It's an investment in our country, and we get an asset. And he balanced the books with that for the first time. That had never been done before. And it was a big deal. Flash forward, you're around my age, so you remember the last big recession. What year was it?
72? 75?
No, the last one we had prior to now.
2007?
Yeah. 2007, 2008. But who was the incoming president? Who came after? That was Bush. Who came after Bush?
Obama.
That's right. You can say all you want about the Democrats, but you're about to get a huge lesson right in your face. Obama passed the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. You ever hear of it?
No.
Okay, because you're not a federal contractor. You're just a construction guy out in the construction industry. And I'll tell you what, most people in the construction industry are Republicans, but you're about to get an education. American Reinvestment and Recovery Act, he puts $150 billion worth of federal contracts out for bid, but you couldn't bid any of it because you're not a federal contractor. If you remember from the advertisement, how many federal contractors are there?
1 million?
No, that was contractors. It was 25,000 registered federal contractors. It's smaller. Remember, it's 25,000 registered federal contractors. That's why the profits are so high in federal market. You got 1 million contractors out in the real world. Contractors like you, roofing contractors, general contractors, drywall guys, concrete guys, HVAC, electricians, that's the 1 million. But in registered, I can tell you exactly how many there are because it's listed at sam.gov. It's only 25,000 contractors. Okay?
Wow.
But here's the problem. Obama issues $150 billion and puts that on the street, but 25,000 registered federal contractors cannot do $150 billion worth of work. That's impossible. But what Obama was trying to do was what FDR did. He was trying to flood the federal market with federal contracts to put the country back to work. Okay? He was trying to stimulate the economy. It was FDR's playbook, and he was just making a play on it, but it didn't work because 25,000 contractors can't do $150 billion worth of work. So $47 billion that was marked for to stimulate the economy went back into the general fund because they couldn't. There was just too much meat on the bone. Okay. We came into the picture in 2010, and our mission, GCExperts, was, hey, let's raise the number of federal contractors. We'll teach guys like you how to go after federal contracts. Okay. So we were hoping that by the next time this recession happened, that there would be enough to eat the meat on the bone. That was the idea. Flash forward 13 years. Who's president today?
Biden.
You can call him Slow Joe, but what did he just pass? The Infrastructure Act. Trillions of dollars into the federal market to build infrastructure across the United States. You can agree or disagree with all of the politics, but that's a fact. It's an act, Infrastructure Act. This is now law. We approved Congress to put all this stuff in place, okay? What's Biden doing? Same playbook, right? Same playbook, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in the up economy, what happens is most contractors, they come down here in the recession and they free fall. But there's contractors in this world that are smarter than you, right? Those guys are splitting off and doing federal contracts rather than coming into the free fall. Then they may decide to ride the up economy in commercial and residential, but when it starts pulling back again, they're splitting off and doing federal contracts.
Okay.
All right. Now, most contractors in this country will work for between $25 and $250 an hour. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, if I called you up and I said, hey, I'm going to fly you down to Austin, Texas, I got a week worth of pressure washing, I'll give you $250 an hour for a whole week, would you take the deal?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Would you agree that there are some people in the construction industry who are making a hell of a lot more than that per hour, but they're not telling you how they do it?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. At least I'd be assuming that, but I believe it.
Well, there are contractors like me in this country who are making $10 to $50 to $100,000 an hour in the construction industry. And if you want me to teach you how we do that, I will teach that to you right now.
Yes, sir. Please.
Our federal government has a rule book. It was designed by Congress and attorneys, and that rule book is called the Federal Acquisition Regulations. We refer to it as the FARs, Federal Acquisition Regulations. This rule book applies to Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, National Park Service, National Forest Service, IRS, CIA, FBI, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Marines, Environmental Protection Agency, United States Post Office. All these agencies that have these million buildings across the United States, they all operate under one rule book, the Federal Acquisition Regulations. You and I are going to talk about one specific FAR. By the way, this is being recorded. You don't need to take notes, and I'll send you a copy of the recording.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's FAR 13.004A. And I want you to take the time right now to Google it because we're going to read it together.
Just Google that term, FAR.
FAR 13.004A. I just want you to Google that.
So, legal effect of quotation. Acquisition.
Stop right there. That's right. Click on acquisition.gov so it pulls up that FAR, but it said legal effect of a quotation. That's the title. Now, the first thing, I can tell you're a smart guy and you're going to want to jump ahead, but if you allow me to just walk you through it step by step, I want it to really impact your life. Let's talk about you in the real world right now. If you go out down the street and you give 10 quotes, 100 quotes, or 1,000 quotes, is there anything legal about that, or are they just quotes?
Yeah, they're legal, aren't they? Why wouldn't they be legal? If someone says yes to that, I mean, I guess it's not legal until somebody signs it.
There you go. It's just a quote. Okay?
Yeah.
But on the federal government side, when I told you we're going to read the rule book for how our government acquires contracts, or I should say acquires construction goods and services, the first title of this FAR is the legal effect of a quotation, which is different from the real world where there is no legal effect of a quotation. Okay? And I just want to establish that that's different. Okay?
Okay.
Then I want you to read the first sentence, but stop at the period, out loud.
A quotation is not an offer and, consequently, cannot be accepted by the government to form a binding contract.
Stop right there. Now look, in the real world, if you say, Sean, give me a quote to do some work, and I sign the quote and I hand it to you, and you sign it, what do we now have?
Now we have a contract.
That's right. But on the federal government side, the first sentence of the legal effect of a quotation says that a quote is not an offer and cannot be turned into a contract. And that's different because in the real world, you can turn it into a contract.
Huh. Okay.
That's different, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now read the second sentence out loud. Stop at the period.
Therefore, issuance by the government of an order in response to a supplier's quotation does not establish a contract.
Now look, this was written by attorneys in legalese and by Congress. It's the Federal Acquisition Regulations. It's the legal effect of a quotation. And our federal government understands that they have people that work for them that might not understand everything there is associated with the legal effect of a quotation. And what our government is concerned about is that someday, even though I turn a quote into the government, it says they can't take my quote and turn it into a contract. They're worried that someday somebody might take my quote and turn it into a contract. So in the second sentence, they're saying that if that happens to you, don't worry about it. It's still not a contract. Isn't that what that says?
I was trying to focus on it, and I don't want to let you do your thing, but that's what it
read
says.
The second. That is what it says, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, read the rest of the paragraph to me out loud.
The order is an offer by the government to the supplier to buy certain supplies or services upon specified terms and conditions. A contract is established when the supplier accepts the offer. Oh.
Again, this is legalese, but let me break it down to what this actually means is, let's say that the National Park Service needs a 200 square foot tiny house. Just a little tiny house for some park rangers to spend the winter in at one of their national parks. So I come along as a national federal contractor and I bid that job for $100,000. They can't turn my bid into a contract. That's the first rule. What the rest of that says is they have to offer it back to me. So I give them a bid and they offer it back to me. Hey, we got your bid. Would you please do it for what you bid it for? That's what that looks like in the real world. Okay? That's what that FAR says. When they offer it back to me, I have 4 options. 4. Number 1, I can accept. Number 2, I can withdraw. Withdraw. Number 3, I can negotiate. And number 4, I can stall for more time. Now, if you are the National Park Service and you need a 200 square foot tiny house built and you get a quote and you know you can't turn it into a contract, so you have to offer it back to the contractor, to the supplier of the quote, which one of these 4 options are you trying to get me to do?
As the contractor? Or the park?
You're the national. That's right. They want me to accept. That's exactly right. Because once I accept that offer, it's a contract, and they want that contract so they can get the 200 square foot tiny house built. That's what they want me to do. But I don't do that. What I do is I stall. I say, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting your call. Can I call you back in 24 to 48 hours? Whoop. Get them right off the phone. Then what I do is I call the yous of the world. The guys that know how to build 200 square... Dude, I don't know how to build a 200 square foot tiny house. I don't even care how to build a 200 square foot tiny house. I promise you, if you told me to go hang a 2x6, you wouldn't want to walk underneath it. Okay? What I do is I call the yous of the world. And this is what that phone call sounds like. Hey, my name's Sean. I'm a national federal contractor. I do everything from wind tunnels, water treatment plants to kitchen renovations. I'm calling you today because our National Park Service needs a 200 square foot tiny house built. What I'd like to do is send you over the plans and specifications. When you get the plans and specs, pick up the phone and call me. I'm already familiar with the job and I'll walk you through it step by step. So then I send over the plans and specs, you pick up the phone, you call me, and I say, hey, listen, off the cuff, I'm not asking you to bid every 2x4, every electrical outlet, every shingle. What I'm asking you is, based on your experience, looking at what this is, it's a 200 square foot tiny house. Just give me a number that if I called you up 90 days from today and said, hey man, we got the job, that we'd be close enough to negotiate something that makes sense for both of us. What would that number be? Now, in this hypothetical situation, no wrong numbers. I've taken all the pressure off of you. Give me a scenario. Give me a price. How much to build the 200 square foot tiny house? Give me a number.
50,000.
Okay, so I bid the job for 100,000. The guy that knows how to build that shit is telling me 50,000. So I call the government up. I accept the deal, and now I make 50 grand for making a couple phone calls, and you're doing all the work. Give me another scenario. How much to build the 200 square foot tiny house?
$150,000.
Holy shit, I turned my bid in for 100 grand. The guy that knows how to build this is telling me 150 grand. So I call the government up, I withdraw my bid, and I say, I'm sorry, we're too busy to take the work on right now. We'll catch you on the next one. Give me another scenario.
80,000.
Probably still enough, you know, if I feel confident that the guy's going to do a good job after my conversation with him, I might still accept the job. I make $20,000 and he does all the work. That's getting close. Okay, 100,000. I turned my bid in for 100. He's telling me 100. I call the government and I negotiate. And I say, hey, suppose I need to change my bid to 135,000. What happens next? I enter into negotiations. Do you want to do any scenarios, or are you now ready to believe me that there is zero risk when I turn a bid to the federal government?
Wow. That's pretty surprising. I had no idea. I believe you.
Okay? No risk. They can't turn my bid into a contract. And I never accept the deal until I know what the spread is and I'm comfortable with it. That is how federal contractors are making tens of to $100,000 an hour of their time.
Wow.
These are the secrets that nobody tells you. Now listen. What you just experienced was 10 or 15 minutes of training that's from my 3-day workshop. For over 10 years, I've been pulling contractors on the other side of that whiteboard into a room and teaching them the secrets to succeeding in the federal market. All right? It's 3 days worth of training. It's over 28 hours. Okay? And prior to the pandemic, I was filming them. Not because I knew the pandemic was coming. I was filming them because I thought it was cool that people were paying us and flying into Austin and going into our office here, and we were teaching them. And I invested a lot of money in those recordings. I mean, I put a lot of cameras up. And but then the pandemic hit, and I went, shit, I can't bring people in the room anymore. So I took those videos I already had, edited them together, and put it on the internet. Now people go through the training and they say, shit, Sean, the video training's better because I can pause it, I can take my kid to school, I can come back and hit play, I can rewind and what did he just say? And play it again. And if they have questions, they can pause it and say, hey, Sean, in the workshop, you just said this. Can you break it down for me? You know, people like that better. Do you want to see what that looks like?
Sure. I've got a handful of questions. This is
Okay.
not what I was expecting.
Hold on, I'm going to show you what that looks like.
Okay, I got
This is part of day 1 of the workshop.
And then put the BIG over the opportunities. Big problems equal big opportunities. If somebody needs something, and they really need it, they're desperate to get it done, you understand that's the opportunity you're looking for, the need. Okay? You focus on the need. Everything gets focused on the need. What's the need? Do you have a budget? Once I understand the need, I focus on it, I understand it, repeat it back to them. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on? Or anything else I should know? Okay, problems like that usually have a budget associated with it. Can you share that with me? You understand
This is part of day 2 of the workshop.
Fully understanding the
So
need.
this is obviously he's going after number 2. Because these are the 2 choices.
You're either going to get 100% of your contract amount and not have to do any of the work, or you're going to get a big fat change. So he sends in 25 grand as the change order price. Now, when he sent that, I told him one of two things are going to happen. Either you're going to get a big fat change order and make a lot of money, or you're going to get a termination for convenience. You understand, the government can terminate the contract for any time. But when they terminate the contract for convenience, what are you entitled to? On termination for convenience, you're entitled to cost plus overhead and profit. That's well-established contract law. Okay? So he sends in the $25,000 change order, and the government immediately, I mean within an hour, issued a termination for convenience. Now, when they issued the termination for convenience, it literally said,
here's some part of day 3.
Your contract is
Do you
hereby...
remember me saying that the rule was if there's only one bidder, and that bidder is 15% or more above the government estimate, they cannot award the contract? Why does our government, in their infinite wisdom, have that rule? Anybody?
Tax dollars money.
Protects tax dollars, right? Because Sally, what's she trying to do? Get George's job done. He needs it. It's his money. He went and asked for it to fix his fish hatchery. It's sitting on her desk. He needs it done. It's not going to get done until she finds a contractor she can award it to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So suddenly somebody turns in a bid for $1 million. It's only $100,000 worth of work, and they got all this money left over in the budget. It's real easy to just, man, if we can just push that money out the door.
What this actually looks like in real life when you invest with me is this. This is what you're investing with. When you buy with me, this is what you get. Day 1 of the workshop is 10 hours. Day 2 of the workshop is 11 hours. Day 3 of the workshop is 7 hours. When it happened in real life, it was Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. This is just a little update video that I put in there. But it's the 3-day workshop that launches you into the federal market. You said you have questions.
Well, I guess my first thought was I thought I would be the contractor bidding for jobs in my industry, but it sounds like this is more than that.
Significantly more than that. It's not that you couldn't bid on jobs that were local to you that were federal. You could. Once you're SAM registered, you can bid on those jobs, and we can certainly get you SAM registered. But why go after such a small piece of the pie when you can do this nationally at no risk?
I guess I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't even expecting this. This is kind of, I'll say this has blown me away. So I don't nationally.
Well,
No risk. So then, do you also show people how to get find subs? Do you have, like, if I'm going to be acting as a GC?
it's Joseph. It's a 3-day workshop. It's not a 3-hour workshop. Yeah, we cover everything that you could. It's the GCExperts. We're the only guys in the country that do this.
So you also help people find contractors that are able to work on these, because I'm sure you can't just have any contractor. Do you also help people get, what do you just call it, SAM registered?
Yes. Yep, that's what makes you a federal contractor, is your SAM registration. And I told my wife 10 years ago when we started, I said, look, I'm going to be bringing people into this industry, and they're going to have to be SAM registered. That's what makes you a federal contractor. There is no license. You don't need a contractor's license from a state or any bullshit like that. I've done hundreds of millions of dollars of federal contracts, and look me carefully, I have never had a license other than a driver's license of any kind. Okay?
Okay. Huh. And you just end up finding the subcontractors and making these jobs happen?
It's really that
and
simple.
then walking away since there's no risk?
Or walking away because there's no risk. But yes, but look, I'll tell you this. Every town's got a good roofer. Every town's got a good plumber. Every town's got a good electrician. And I'm going to give you a nickel's worth of free advice right now. Ready for this one?
Sure.
If the town's so small that you can't find the guy, you call the local preacher. He knows the guy.
How much time do you, once you start this, how much time does it take to work this?
Typically, when somebody gets out of the workshop, gets out of the training, it takes about 90 days before they get their first contract. Typically.
But when you get going, how much time freedom do you have after that? So,
how much time did it take me to set up the 200 square foot time? Look, the first email you got from me should have said, "Welcome to the world of federal construction." Did you read that email?
no, probably not.
Okay. In that email, are you familiar with the word indisputable?
Yeah.
Okay. That means without reproach. That means nobody can argue that what I'm telling you is true. Okay. The reason I made you read that federal acquisition regulation is because I'm an evidence-based business. That wasn't my website you were reading that from. That was the government's legal website for the federal acquisition regulations. Everything that I say to somebody in these Zoom meetings is 100% Googleable and verifiable. Okay? In that first email that I sent you, I talked about a 3-ton air conditioner that we switched out up in Alaska. Not switched out, put in, brand new. Okay? In that email is the award document, the federal government award document. That is indisputable and without reproach. How much do you think a 3-ton air conditioner costs to install? Do you have one at your house?
I would say probably close to $30,000.
Okay, that's about twice the national average is your guess. Okay, the national average is really somewhere between 8 and 12. We paid 15, but in that first email I sent you the federal award document. You want to know how much I sold it to the government for?
Tell me.
$107,000.
And you got a contractor to do that for 15 or whatever.
For 15 or whatever. And I never went to Alaska.
Huh.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, this definitely was not what I was expecting. That's interesting.
It's never what somebody's expecting.
Okay.
Was I at any risk for the bid that I turned in for 107?
No.
How long do you think it took me to come up with that number?
10 minutes?
It took longer to fill out the paperwork than it did for me to come up with that number.
And do you do this nationally? I mean, you're finding, I saw that in one of the videos that I was watching.
You saw Bid Tracker. It was Bid Tracker. I spent $250,000 inventing that program. Here's what it looks like. These are all the jobs all across the country right now. There's 50 jobs per page. They're sorted by date, the date that they're due. These are jobs that are due today. If we scroll down, there will be jobs that are due Monday. If we go, and by the way, when you're ready to look at a job, you just click sync. Sync. How long is this taking, Joseph? Okay.
So they're
then
due
you go to
today,
the,
like a quote is due today? Is that what that means?
yeah, these jobs on this particular page are due today. These jobs are due on the 21st. See the date over here? Okay. If you're interested, you click sync. You just click sync. How long is this taking? Okay. And then when it's syncing in the background. So right now you don't see any folders, but just watch. My hands are off. No magic tricks here. Watch what happens. Whoa, wow. Look at that. Okay, those folders are dates. You see it says 317 on the left and 321 on the right?
Yes.
Those are the dates that jobs are due. What's inside those folders? The jobs I clicked sync on. What's inside these folders? The files that you need to bid the job. So you just come over here, and if they've got plans, specifications, drawings, pictures, are you at any risk for any of those jobs that you turn in?
No.
How long did that take me to find some jobs and opportunities?
Seconds.
That's what you get when you invest $250,000 because the government website sucks dick.
So obviously you would pick jobs that you would be more willing to take and look at because of the time that you'd want to invest in bidding that out.
Whatever. I mean, people pick different jobs for different reasons. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care what the construction is, and I don't care where it's at. I just want to be the middleman between what the government needs and the guys that know how to do it.
Wow. Okay. What does this cost?
$5,000.
Is it all at once, or do you pay that over time, or?
No, it's right up front. And it's not even just that. It's another $700 you got to give to my wife to get your SAM registered.
But you'll make that in the first job, easily. That's interesting.
Look, the purpose of this conversation isn't, oh my God, let me sell you a workshop. It's only to determine two things. Because, look, I can't control your finances. I can't control if you've got $1 million in the bank or $5,000 in the bank. I can't control that shit. What I can control is you decide whether I'm full of shit or not. And if you decide I'm not, am I the guy you want to go into this market with? That's all that has to be determined in this conversation. I was here last year. I was here 10 years ago. God willing, I'll be here 10 years from now.
That 25,000 that you showed at the beginning is 25,000 contractors. Is that what it's grown to now, or?
So that's an interesting question. And by the way, you're not the first person to ask that question. A guy, Patrick, I had a conversation with 3 weeks ago. He did invest in the workshop, by the way, and I've got a video of him talking about how great it was if you want to see it. But he did ask me that question. He said, Sean, I don't really care if it's 20,000 or 35,000, but I just want to double check you to see if you're full of shit on that $25,000 number. And I have to admit that I went to the source to look for it and I couldn't find it. So I got with my tech guy and I said, dude, this guy's asking me this question. We got to prove it to him. He said, give me a little bit. Well, it took him 12 hours, but he finally found it, and the number was 22,800. And if you want a link to that, I'm happy to give it to you because I'm an evidence-based guy, and you should be able to see the absolute some certain proof if you want to see that. So if you want to see that, I will send it to you. The answer is 22,782 or something like that.
And those 22,000 people are the only people really competing for all this work?
Correct.
Wow. I guess I'm blown away and surprised. Wasn't expecting this. I'd like the opportunity. Send me whatever. Send me this link and then send me the... Yeah, after looking at the picture, that is not what I was expecting. I had no idea. Because, you go through Facebook and we have this whole thing with life now, if I can't get what I'm looking for in the first 5 or 10 seconds, or I didn't even know what I was looking for, I just delete it. And when I get so many emails, I just flip through them. I don't sit and watch everything.
Oh, I don't blame you. That's why that's one of the questions I asked in the beginning is normally people skip over shit like that. And what made you stop on me?
I'm a serial opportunist. How's that for an honest answer?
Okay. Well, you stumbled upon a good one. That's the link. I just texted it to you.
Okay. So if I decide this is something I want to do I just text you?
No, you just click that button, you pay me, and it instantly takes you. It looks like this. Let me show you what it looks like.
I can open it.
Well, but you can see my screen. You just click this button to add the SAM registration. And then when you invest here, it redirects you to this page.
Is there any kind of, if I have questions, I call you?
You pause it, we get on this thing, and I break it down for you. Yep. And by the way, you don't have to get in line. You just text me and you say, hey, dude, get me on a Zoom. And I go, bam.
Wow.
This is what I do. I'm a one-trick pony, federal contracts. People don't call a guy like me to ask about the weather in Austin, Texas, because I don't give a shit, and they probably don't either. They call me to, get answers to questions in federal contracts. And by the way, we still have another 20 minutes scheduled here. If you have questions and you want to talk about federal contracts, you got a guy right in front of you who's done 1,000 of them, generated $1 billion worth of revenue. Fire away, man. There is no magic in this business. How many students do you
currently have?
What's that?
How many students do you currently have?
I've taught this workshop to about 110 people over the last 10 years.
So my assumption, because I've worked as a GC for many years. I was
Okay.
Estimating all that, so I can, for the most part, I can come up with an idea. This is going to be a reasonable price for this. Someone tells me they want to get a.
That's right. And so your concern is, what about the stuff that I don't know? And so on day 2 of the workshop, I teach how to bid any type of work, no matter what, indisputably. And I just guarantee you that if you feel like at the end of the 3 days that you go, holy shit, Sean, you're a quack, and you call me up and you tell me that, I will give you your money back, no questions asked, for any reason or no reason at all.
But it takes 90 days to be able to, typically, on average, to make your first deal?
On average. It depends on some things. So what it depends on is, are you turning in 1 bid a week, or are you turning 1 bid in a day? Okay? It depends on some things. I'm not one of these douchebags on the internet that says, get rich quick and this is how, or make your company recession proof or whatever, even though isn't doing federal contracts making your company recession proof? But I can't say that because nobody will stop on the ad.
How many, so, I don't even know, this is probably a difficult question to answer, but let's say it's a $100,000 job. It's building that tiny home. So
Okay.
It took you maybe 10 minutes or whatever to fill out the paperwork, fill it out, get the quote, come back, it get accepted, or you negotiate or whatever. So let's say that took you 4 hours. Now the job starts and something happens. How much interaction do you have with the contractor?
Oh, as much as you want. But typically what I'm saying to him is something along the lines of, okay, so you said you can build this thing for $40,000. Suppose have you ever been paid more than what you asked for? That confuses people when I say that. Okay? Because, no, I'm in the construction industry. Nobody fucking pays me more than I ask for. Okay? I go, well, look, on this job, I'm going to give you $45,000, but here's what my expectation. When your guy goes out there in the morning and he gets on the job, he takes 3 pictures and he texts them to me. At the end of the day, he texts me 3 pictures of what progress has been made. So I'm fully abreast of everything that's happening as the day goes on. And at the end of the day, I want him to fill out a daily report. You got any problem with that?
That makes sense.
But look, I teach this in the workshop.
What if it's multiple disciplines? You're building a gas station.
Yep. So then the primary foreman on the job site, okay, if it's under $100,000 or maybe under $150,000, the primary foreman on the job site, I'm giving him an extra $100 a week so that if anybody comes out and asks, hey, who represents Government Construction Experts or whatever the name of your company is, he raises his hand and he says, I do, and he coordinates things. I greases the wheels a little bit. If it's a bigger job, $200,000, $500,000, I probably send my own guy out there.
How often do you ever show up?
When shit gets fucked up, I get called in.
Are change orders ever an issue?
Never an issue. The government's always got money for change orders, but we teach that in the workshop. I got a whole 2.5 hour section of that at the end of day 2, change orders.
And you're a hand holder, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know whatever questions to ask at this point. Okay, let's do this. I do real estate investing, and I started another business doing pressure washing and window washing because I can get paid $100 to $150 an hour, my company does, and I can hire people to do that work. It doesn't take brain to do most of that work. Just takes decent equipment. It's really a low overhead, high ticket price, and low cost type of business.
Okay.
I got into these two types of businesses because what I'm trying to do is build wealth and have a consistent income so I can do ministry. My calling is to be in ministry, to be able to go. I go to Africa.
I wish you would have said that before I started mouthing off.
Oh, whatever. I've been in the construction industry for years. It's okay. I appreciate that, though. So what I'm looking for is freedom. I'm looking to work maybe 20 hours a week.
Okay.
Is that how most of your students, is that how much they typically work?
I'll tell you this, that you get 2 perspectives in the workshop. When you noticed that I played those videos, you saw some footage of me and you saw some footage of my dad. Most of the workshop is my dad. So of the 28 hours, my part is probably about 11 hours, something like that. So a little more than a third of the workshop is me. Most of the workshop is my dad. But you get 2 perspectives because my dad and I operate differently. My dad, let's just say that my dad is probably more like you, and I'm an abrasive personality. In this world, I'm the kind of guy, I'm the bad cop. Okay? My dad's the good cop. I can't say things on Zoom and try to sound like my dad because it will sound disingenuous to people. They'll read that and go, this guy's full of shit. Okay? But I will tell you that my dad is a veteran of this country in the Vietnam War, that his dad is a veteran of World War II, and that his grandfather fought in the trenches of World War I in Europe. I never served in this country. I have different beliefs than my dad, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather. Okay? But my dad is a patriot, and he comes at the government construction business from the perspective of, I want to help our government get through their construction goods and services needs so that they can get back on mission. Me, Sean Reitmeyer, I don't care about that. I care about being the middleman of demand, and I understand how to make money in federal contracts. I don't come at it from the perspective of altruism. Okay? But my dad does. I watched my dad sue the federal government 14 times in cases where he believed our government was screwing a contractor over. Okay? He didn't hire an attorney. He went and did it himself. I watched him tear up in front of a judge explaining how it's just not fair for the government to be doing what it was doing to a contractor. He really cares. I don't. Okay? And so you get two perspectives. One perspective from my dad is, here's how to build a $100 million a year company if you want to. My perspective in the workshop is, here's how to make $25,000 a month free and clear working 4 hours a week. Whether you decide to go my path or go my dad's path or a hybrid of the two, it's up to you, the viewer.
Yeah, I'm probably somewhere in between.
Maybe you are. But you get two perspectives in the workshop. It's 28 hours of training. I can't teach it in 3 hours.
So the jobs that are out there, are they all, I mean, they vary, I'm sure. Some of them are $5,000 jobs and some of them can be $1 million jobs, right?
They're all over the place. We don't tell the government how to spend their money.
Right.
But I will tell you, I've done tons of jobs that required pressure washing over the years, but I just hire somebody local to do that.
Okay. I guess I don't have any other questions right now. Thank you for your time.
You bet, Joseph. I'm here for you if you need me, man.
All right. So next step is just click on that if I want to. Are there any other? I guess I'll go back and look at some more of the videos, but I guess it's all going to be about the same stuff.
It's all guys going, holy crap, you should listen to these guys.
Okay. I'm sure you need an LLC and all that stuff, right?
Yep, you need an LLC or a corp. Yeah, the government does work with entities only.
Yep. Okay. Well, Sean, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for, I guess, for all the good work you do in the world. I would never do that.
I love your honesty. I had a guy that I worked with for years. His name was John Kaiser. He was an electrician. Really smart guy. He had his upbringing was kind of hard. He became a drug dealer, very violent person, ended up going to jail. And when he ended up getting out of jail, I guess he got trained to be an electrician. And he was a very abrasive individual. I loved him. I mean, we were actually very good friends, but you could tell that, I mean, not you could tell, but when you're with him, you know you're getting exactly John Kaiser. He's never you're never going to get anything different. He's never hiding behind anything. He's not hiding himself from you. He's going to, if there's a breath, there's an F-bomb. But he was also brutally honest all of the time.
Yep.
So it never really mattered what he did. And he was, the only thing that I would say was difficult to deal with was when, if I didn't get it the first time and I ask a question, I'm getting called a name and then he teaches me again. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I tell you that I'm very similar to that, but I have learned something over the last 12 years that I didn't know before I started teaching federal contracts. And that's that people who go through my training are smarter than the average person down the street. And I mean that because it's one thing to be able to afford the $5,000. It's another thing to be able to travel to Austin, Texas and leave your business for 3 or 4 days and travel and all that kind of stuff. And dumb people can't usually do that. But what I've also learned is that smart people have certain assumptions in life about how things work. As an example, in this conversation, you're a sharp guy, and I kind of blew your mind on some things that you might have had preconceived notions on, but I may have changed your mind. Okay? But I've also found that when you use sarcasm against somebody who's smart, it kind of makes them feel a little bit dumb, and smart people don't like that. So when you do use sarcasm to teach, it's like a bullet to the brain of information, and it never leaves their brain because they think about it more, smart people, when you teach with sarcasm.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. And
And so part of that
you're,
sarcasm, part of that sarcasm is calling a smart person stupid. Okay? And that's what he was doing to you, even though he may not have understood why.
aw, he passed away a couple years ago, and that gives a different perspective. I never thought of it that way.
Yep.
Now you made me cry.
I'm sorry, Joseph, but that's the way I see this world.
Yeah.
I call smart people stupid all the time. I'm not doing it to make them feel bad.
I got you. You even look like him. And you should take offense to that.
I love it. I hope he had a good haircut like me.
It was the same. Yep, it was exactly the same. Do you drive you have a Harley?
I do not.
Oh.
No, I got a Prius. Quite the opposite.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Sean, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for opening my eyes to this opportunity. It's not what I was expecting.
All right. I'm here for you if you need me, Joseph.
Thanks, Sean. Hope
Bye-bye.
you have a good weekend, bud. Bye.
You too.
I get the recording device, I get the phone, what's the duct tape for?